This is the Classic Auto Mall Show. Broadcast from the studios inside the Classic Auto Mall in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Just 1 hour west of Philadelphia at Pennsylvania Turnpike exit 298. Featuring nearly 1,000 classic, vintage, and barn-find vehicles for sale under one climate-controlled roof. Now, here's your host, Classic Auto Mall president and the man with all the toys, Stuart Howden.
And welcome to show number 165, the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, on a whatever day it happens to be, whenever you happen to be listening to this. Today is actually, what is today? Almost the end of October.
Whatever it is, it ends with a Y.
It is almost Halloween.
Remind him never to do that again.
Yeah.
We, show number 165. That's hard to believe. So this will first air now. We've changed all this because we're no longer on America's Web Radio.
Right.
So we have no constraints. We're constraint free.
We can curse and everything.
I don't know. You know, I like to curse, but you know,
we don't need to.
Maybe just not where people can hold it over my head.
I can't hold it again.
Or do you say cuss in the South?
We say curse or cuss.
Cuss, yeah.
Cuss or
that's right.
curse
That's
in
right.
the South. No, thanks anyway.
All right.
Let's get right to our guests so we can quit jibber-jabbering over here. Well, welcome to the show, Cindy McGrane, who, this is the first time for us. We had her husband on 3 weeks ago. So welcome to the show, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you. Such an honor to be here. And Tim absolutely loved his time with you. Stuart, awesome to meet you at the Radnor Concours.
Absolutely.
What a show. And to watch the flyover, the
drone footage
of your showroom. Oh my gosh, that is incredible.
It's careful what you wish for kind of a situation.
Yeah,
you know, we were like, oh yeah, that would be cool if we could have a whole mall full of cars. And then we go, oh, that might not be so cool. You know, it becomes a lot more work than it used to be.
Right.
I miss the good old days.
And we saw that in our years in the car auction world with barret-jackson and World Classic, all these car auction companies where you'd have somebody who'd get hooked on it and then they'd start with 2 cars and then it was 4 and then it was 24.
Yeah. And
before you know it, they've got to have a dealership and then a museum and so you've done it right.
Yeah, it's been fun, and you see these guys. You know when they're gotten really serious when they have Montana tags on every one of their cars because now they've set out an LLC and a whole thing where they're it's a whole corporation but most of these guys who collect that many cars are business-minded people, yes. And everything that they can do that would be business categorized, and they're going to do it. They're going to figure that out. So, for those of you who don't know, Cindy is the forum manager and the Concours Village coordinator at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. Well, la-di-da, that is a cool place. Yeah, what a great business card to have. I want my business card to say Pebble Beach something on it someday. So.
Well, and I'm blessed that's just one of my business cards, so I'm really happy to say that. It is a labor of love, and I'm absolutely honored and humbled to be a part of that incredible show. Tim and I have had some volunteer presence or contracted presence at the Concours for many years. The first attendance was in 1988 with the Aston Martin Owner Club. Right. And to be transparent, we didn't own an Aston Martin. We were wannabes. Right. And that was really my first time visiting even the Monterey Peninsula. Right. And who knew that it would go where it went or it has gone. They're an awesome organization to work with. 75% women run, which is a surprise to most people. Mm-hmm. Very professionally run. They are about to celebrate 75 years in 2026. It's technically been 75 years since the show started, but we missed World War II and then again for COVID. Sure. So there's been a few lapses. Yeah. But I'm very honored to have this little tiny piece of the pie of this show.
Well, I mean, it's a great event and it's world class. And I met Sandra Button at the Greenwich, or not Greenwich, but Audrain, and she said, mm-hmm. "Oh, you're having them." I told her we are having you guys on the show. She said, "You better have them on separately. They both have a lot to talk about."
Oh, well, that's a big compliment.
Oh, absolutely. She was fun to talk to. We just chatted for a few minutes, but she was fun to talk to, and what an amazing thing, and so great to see women in this. I mean, listen, when you're talking about something that's elegant, men don't always understand the word elegant. And so having women in there, I think, helps that mindset because now people do appreciate an elegance and about it. And that's what it is,
I think that it's so important to have a variety of voices in the room. I'm a very technical engineering minded person. I'm not that person that can say, oh, that pink is better than that pink.
Right.
I really am not. So I bring something to the structure and organization of what I do in events. But I love working with event planners, male and female, that have that eye for design and for the wow factor, because they make the show, they take it to another level.
Sure.
You know, we can orchestrate, get a great mission statement, really curate a wonderful show, but they make it outstanding where you remember it.
Sure. And your background is in event planning, right? I mean, you've done a lot of that over the years with other organizations and with your own companies, right?
It's a second act for me.
Right.
And that's something that's worth talking about
Sure.
in the world of partnerships, people that, so just to go backward, I really spent a lifetime in the airline industry.
Right.
I come from an aircraft manufacturing family. My grandfather made aircraft. I grew up flying. I started flying very, very young. Went to work for a kind of startup airline and stayed with them. They're still the world's largest regional airline and 51% owned by a family.
Wow.
So it was a great experience. I've worked for many entities in aviation, but
Sure.
I kind of came full circle, decided it was time to retire in about
How'd that work out?
2018.
That didn't work out, right?
Well, from the airlines. The great
Sure.
thing about working in industry, and anybody, I'm not even just talking about the airlines. Let's say it's manufacturing.
Mhm.
You've worked for one of the big three. Often you have latitude to use your vacation to do philanthropic things.
Sure.
A lot of companies now allow space for their employees to explore their charitable concerns, to volunteer their time and take company time to do that. So I'm a big proponent of that, in as much as, you know, a company can afford to do it.
Sure.
So backward,
All right.
I started noticing that as a partner to somebody. So I'm an airplane girl.
Right.
I knew nothing about cars when I met my husband. I had no idea what a big car guy he was
Right.
until we've been together a while. And we've been married 38 years.
Wow.
So it's been a wonderful ride. I'm very blessed to be Mrs. Tim. So it started with Tim and a group of friends saying, hey, how hard can it be to organize a vintage race in downtown Palm Springs, California?
Oh, easy.
Sort of
right?
reenact, and he probably talked to you about
Yeah.
that, the old vintage Grand Prix. So I think they called it the Palm Springs road races. But that first year, everybody showed up. Carol Shelby, Sterling Moss. I mean, just the cadre of, and my husband, this British kid that used to cut a hole at Brands Hatch and go on the track and just sit and, you know, eat his lunch and watch races, all these heroes, to have them come to an event that he was part of creating was,
Wow.
it was life-changing. So that put us on a trajectory of staying in that world.
Sure.
And through all those relationships, we're here today. So I started just helping, you
Right.
know, as most partners do. One thing, and stop me if I ramble on.
No,
but
no, no. Keep going.
one thing we kind of discovered is this formula is often you marry your opposite. Really
Right.
successful relationships, long-term relationships, are people that are opposite of each other in a good way. They
Sure.
have opposite interests, but they appreciate each other. They respect each other's interests, and their skill sets, what you bring to the partnership. So we would often see, for example, when Tim ran the Blackhawk Museum, we had this amazing volunteer group of docents that would come in, and people that were, you know, associates and things that would help with all of these events. But they often had a spouse, whether it be the male or female side, because there's as many car girls in that world as there
Sure.
are car guys. Their partner wanted to be involved, but wasn't necessarily interested in that, you know, at the moment. So the idea was to create a space for them so that you're bringing the whole family in to enjoy. And we had so many examples of family members after the initial volunteer passed away for age or illness or whatever would come to us and say, this gave them life. This
Sure.
gave them something to get up in the morning and do, and a reason for smiling today. And
Absolutely.
so that hit me hard very early on in my life. I thought, wow, we all need a purpose and need to belong somewhere.
Sure.
So I started out, when Tim would work in the car auction world, I would help with bidder registration. They would hire me to come in and learn to register bidders. That was before everything was, you know, computerized, electronic, all paper things. I would, when we were done registering, I'd sit in the back of the room and record the auction results on their little program. And I would have reporters and writers and people that like that kind of information. Keith Martin from Sports Car Market would ask, hey, what did that sell for?
Right.
And I had it in real time. So, and I had a whole posse of wives that were in the back of the room, wives, the
Your
wags,
crew,
wives
huh?
and girlfriends,
Yeah.
that were doing this. It became our thing. And we'd show up at every auction. And when our duties were done, or our volunteerism, we'd record the results. Well, then, of course, that became a really important task.
Absolutely.
And recognized, for many reasons. And so I still have those catalogs with the provenance of the actual sale. And I could calculate the commission and go, that's what it actually, what the guy paid.
That might be something to hold on to. They might be valuable. Well, my wife and I had the same trajectory. I went to work for eBay Cruise when eBay bought Cruise in 1999, 2000. And they were like, oh, your wife could come help, couldn't she? And, because you needed all the help you can get. Well, now she and I work together. She's the office manager and I'm the guy who wanders around aimlessly, and she but it's great because she likes doing that part of the job and I don't care so much for that, and so it works out great. And the great thing with an event that you do, especially at like Pebble Beach, is that almost every year is like a grand opening. I mean, every year is a push to the one big thing, and that sounds like
crescendo.
A lot of fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is, but I will say that for your listeners or anybody that's out there, if you have a partner that seems uninterested in what you're doing, hey, bring them, maybe get them engaged in a way that's meaningful to them.
Sure.
You never know where it's going to take you. And look what it's done to me. We opened our company, Events International, in 2008,
right,
at the height of the banking crisis, when a lot of corporate events were no longer going to be able to be performed by these big organizations because they had to take it off their books. Mm-hmm. And we were able to contract and take that over. So we were still able to do the best of show, the cigar aficionado events, the Monaco Rendezvous Yacht Festival, those kinds of things in a smaller way for them under our own blanket. And then they would pay us a contracted fee to do it.
Well, that worked out great.
And so for a time, that was a really good way to pivot.
Sure.
And,
Well, events are always fun to do, and especially when they're car related, because they're the people that you meet in this hobby are extraordinary. I mean, every day we meet new people, and it's just amazing. And then we always wonder, how did we not meet them sooner? But life happens in trajectories and all that good stuff. Anyway, when we return, we will continue our conversation with Cindy McGrane here on the Classic Auto Mall Show. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
The Classic Auto Mall has more than 1,000 vehicles for consignment in our huge 8-acre climate-controlled showroom. It's a real indoor mall. If you'd like to know all the advantages of buying and selling a car through consignment, the information is available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. It's easy, safe, convenient, and it doesn't matter where you are. We sell worldwide. See our huge selection of classic and collectible vehicles at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio. Joining us via Zoom. You're in Detroit probably, right?
I am, yeah, Bloomfield Hills. Yeah. I'm in Penske territory.
So that wasn't a culture shock to move from being a Palm Springs girl to Detroit. What got you the most? Was it the weather? Was it the food? Was it the people? What was the most glaring difference?
We love everything about living in Michigan. Wow. So let's just be clear about this. I sound like Kamala Harris saying that repeated phrase. But I am born and raised in Palm Springs, California. I had never driven in the snow. I had never learned to ski. I went to University of Hawaii. So my favorite vacation spots are Tahiti, Samoa, and Fiji. So let's paint that picture.
Not Upper Vermont, right?
When Tim was being sort of vetted, and that's what getting a job is these days.
Right.
Especially at the CEO level, they had me fly out with him on a couple of occasions and just have conversations. Because at the time we were living in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was during COVID. Who knew what was going to happen?
Sure. And
I had never even visited Michigan other than in my airline world. I worked out of Detroit for a short time, but really just at the airport.
Right.
And I was all in. I love the people here. There's so much love and family. I don't want our West Coast friends to know this, but global warming has been really kind to the southeast part of Michigan.
Right.
We have not experienced a really devastating winter. There are beautiful winters with the little snowfall that comes down, and then it's a 50-degree day. It's all gone, and then it snows again, and it's all gone.
Same here. Same in Pennsylvania.
We have never lived through the really treacherous storms. I work from home now, so I really enjoy having if you could see the view out of my window, the fall colors. Growing up in the desert, we never had the four seasons, and it's getting hotter in the West.
Yeah, it is. And it's nice to have that definition of four seasons that you have. And that's what I always loved. I hated when I lived in South Florida when Christmas time felt like the same, felt like summertime. And it was hard to know that. And of course, in Palm Springs, half the houses didn't even have air conditioning back in the day because they had those nice. Yeah. And a nice big house didn't have air conditioning, which I was blown away when I went to California for the first time and said, "Where's the air conditioning?" And they said, "We don't have any." And
all those mid-century modern houses were built for seasonal use. They weren't built to, intended for year-round use. The LA crowd would come down in the winter and spend, winter over. But yeah, my dad built a house without air conditioning in it in the, late 50s, early 60s. And it really wasn't until the early 70s that we had a swamp cooler. You remember those desert coolers? So I'm grateful to live in a more climate controlled. But in my husband's defense, he was very worried, and he did say, "Listen, if you don't want to do this," we've had many offers to move to other really cold climates. Tim's from England.
Right. We've
kind of gone back and forth about working there and living there. And working in the airline industry, I was moved around a lot. I would fly in, work the week in Billings, Montana, Butte, where it'd be 30 below. It's all the clothes, right?
And like you said, you're going from an airport to a hotel to an airport to it's not. People go, "Oh, you were in Paris," and you go, "Well, it could have been, Detroit. It could have been, Sioux City, Iowa. It doesn't. They all look the same. All the Ramada Inns look exactly the same, right?"
My view was the inside of the airport office where I was managing for that month. I was the rotating manager. Or we were doing recruiting, or we were, doing some kind of compliance issue with the FAA. And I was there for a week or two. But you're exactly right. Love Michigan, everything about it. The people are lovely. I'm always impressed at how people dress for the occasion.
Right.
You put on a themed event, and they all subscribe to the theme.
I love
that. We just did an event with Richard Petty at M1 Concours. It was a 20s theme. The outfits were off the charts, stunning.
How cool is
and
that?
You're just so grateful for people for having fun in life and letting you be a part of it.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of vanilla in this world, and we need more, raspberry sprinkles or whatever.
They do a lot of raspberry sprinkles out here.
I like that. So your gig at the Pebble Beach Concours, you're the forum manager and the Concours Village coordinator. So the forum manager, for those of you who don't know, and a lot of the events are starting to do this, it'll be basically not a round table, but a podium of people, a panel discussion. Right. Yeah. Those got to be a lot of fun.
They are fun. There's a lot of pressure because this is Pebble Beach. It's not, my sweet friend Bill Warner knew how to do this right. If you've ever been to any of his talks at Amelia Island, the best of, and he can fill a room because he knows the secret sauce and when to do it. The secret with any of forum events, had an early start outside, and it's a little dusty out today, is forming your mission. What are we trying to accomplish here? What narrative are we trying to bring forward? What is the topic that is going to bring people in? That first of all, there's no point in, as you know, in a podcast, putting on a show of any kind and not having anyone interested in hearing what you have to say.
Sure.
So that is, of course, the challenge. This is not my forte as far as I'm, like I said in the beginning, I'm a organizer, a project manager, structural person. So I rely heavily on all the voices in the room to say, "Hey, what about this? Hey, how about that?" The Pebble Beach team is so seasoned and so good. Chief Judge Chris Bach will be very quick to say, "Why don't you reach out to XYZ? Here's his number."
Right.
Think about that topic.
Right.
So in the case of the Pebble Beach Concours, we're obviously, I established a mission, and the Concours has a huge mission statement, of course, but mine is just to educate, entertain, and inform in some shape or form. Those forums have to meet that litmus test, or they really just aren't going to be successful, and we really shouldn't be wasting everybody's time. So it's not like an infomercial. I don't want to, we're not going to allow a third party, a commercial group, to come in and hijack the audience and tell their brand. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't cooperate with a brand and say, a sponsor, and say, "What do you want to talk about?"
Sure.
So, for example, this year, I really, after doing it a little while, I really wanted to figure out our market and our audience. And this is true of any show you do, whether it's a forum or what you're doing. Who is your market and how do we speak to them? So when people come to Pebble Beach, it's a very expensive thing to do. You've got hotel rooms, you've got flights to get in there. There's a lot of events that are very high ticket items. Oddly enough, the Concours d'Elegance is one of the least expensive, highest value tickets you can buy. It really is. So, and they're very good about understanding that is their space. Mm-hmm. They're both community philanthropic. They raise a huge amount of money for Monterey charities, and it makes a difference in those communities. So that's our mission. We want to get the bodies on property to support our sponsors, to see the show, to visit our other endeavors in Concours Village, which is just a fan engagement zone, a very nice high-end fan engagement zone. And so I wanted it to be a place where business gathers and has meaningful discussions in the automotive sector, where we can talk about the future for who's the next generation to engage in the car world in general, not just the classic car world. And finally, some just fun things to do. Sure. Jerry Seinfeld, you try to have these folks on stage that just draw special interest. People love it. So this year we did a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So I had SEMA and the Peterson Museum, who are great partners together, come in, and we talked about the future of fuels and what is that doing? Should it be all electric, or should we have hybrids? Should we stick with petroleum-based products? Let's have that meaningful conversation. Sure. SEMA is, of course, always been the voice of the industry, but I see them evolving more toward trying to get more involved with influencing legislation on this part. And I think that's important. We need a voice from our side, the car world.
We can't just hope it to happen.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
Yeah. Is it realistic to electrify everything?
Probably not.
Maybe here, but you travel anywhere out west, and the prime example is to go from Phoenix to LA. You've got to stop in Quartzsite and charge your, electrified vehicle for half an hour, and you're waiting in line with 30, 40 other cars to do that.
Sure. I remember being out in Barstow and Bakersfield area out there in California, and it was just the middle of nowhere, and you might not see, forget electric cars. This was back in gas stations. You might not see a gas station for 150 miles. So, and I think that, the point that you talked about getting the younger people involved, one of the things that we feel strongly about is that we think that, there's a lot of different events that cater to a lot of different age groups and crowds. What our feeling is that I don't think that the concours should change the elegance part of it to go towards the kids. Let's make the kids appreciate the elegance part of it. A Toyota Supra is a very cool car. Is it ever going to be elegant? I argue no.
Well, and the other thought to that is what inspired you to love a certain marque or car? Was it when you sat in it the first time at the age of 5 and smelled the leather and got to touch all the dials? I'm attracted to cars that have lots of switches that are manual. I'm not a fan of the glass screen. Sure. Because, that's too much like working in my office, right? A touch screen computer. I worked in airplanes that are touch screen. It's just, I want something that, and is it more important to you to be able to fix your own vehicle, to play with it, to modify it? I think there's a lot to be said by, clearly Motor Trend has hit in the whole roadkill nights thing of modifying cars and making them exciting and fun and doing crazy things with them. So there's a niche there. When you do a Cars and Coffee, you see a huge number of kids and their cars. And so how do we attract them? Sure. We did a talk a year before, on the future of car shows, concours, and kind of like street festivals. And so the kids in the room were a group of teenagers are on the dais. Sorry, that piece of hair there we go.
I have one too. Just one. Yeah.
I'm blessed to have them.
You got plenty. I'll take a little of yours.
Yeah. The kids on the dais the people on the dais ranged from 17 on up to 45, because they had been the kids that the Concours drew in early days. But I brought them in specifically from different genres and areas. One is a group in Northville, Michigan, that runs their own teen Concours, and it has blown up. It's huge. Now those kids have gone off to college, and the next generation Haggerty does a great youth teaching program that I think is fantastic. And thank you, Haggerty, for that. That draws in a lot of kids. But how do we, I think all of us need to think, what was it that our passion, at what moment in time was that passion sparked?
Sure.
And how do we then replicate that or create opportunity for those passions to be realized by the next generation? Sure. I'm grateful to say that we see at M1 Concours and in our world, a lot of young people really interested.
Yeah, us too. We see that, and it's important.
Oh, a big proponent of creating opportunity, no matter how elegant the show needs to be. You've got to create space to and invite and support and sponsor these people, these young people to come in. And I hate to say young people, could be a 30-year-old. Yeah. I mean, we have a 34-year-old son.
Young to me.
Doesn't care about cars. Yeah. He drives a Honda Civic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do we do? So
sure.
Racing simulators can spark them. Getting into karting, go-karting. That can be that tactile. Oh my gosh, I learned how to skid. I learned how
fun.
to correct. And it's physical and it speaks to your soul versus just looking at pictures of things.
I need to be in charge of driver's ed in this country because I'm going to teach them how to slide. I'm going to teach them how to four-wheel drift. I'm going to teach them how to do all that fun stuff. So if you got time to join us for one more segment, I don't want to mess up your day here. If you're,
I'm at your disposal.
All right. Well, we'll be back with the Classic Auto Mall Show with our guest Cindy McGrane in just a couple of minutes. We'll see you then.
Whether you want to buy or sell a classic, collectible, or special interest vehicle, you need to visit the Classic Auto Mall website for more information. If you're looking to buy, you can easily search our inventory of more than 1,000 vehicles on the web at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall Show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania, talking to Cindy McGrane, the forum manager and Concours Village coordinator at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance. We, we love doing these shows. They're so much fun, and there's always so much to talk about. And I always make this list of like 3 or 4 pages, and I never get through the first page. It's
right.
Just like, we go off in rabbit holes, and we start talking about food, or we talk about whatever else can possibly talk about. Now, the interesting thing is the last 2 shows, or the 2 shows out of the last 8 or 10 we've had a couple of interesting things. We've had somebody doing dishes in the background. And then Justin Bell's got a hairless cat that scared the crap out of me when I ran across the stage. So
sorry.
Hopefully no surprises coming, out of your world.
No pets, no, because I do a lot of Zoom. Most of my work is Zoom, obviously. If I work for clients in the West and in Europe, I'm kind of always on a camera. But
we were talking about sponsorship at an event like Pebble Beach, and for most events, sponsorship is very difficult to get. But the list of who's who in the automotive world that sponsors Pebble Beach is staggering. It's like, oh my God, it's pages worth of companies. That's amazing.
It is a full-time job, as I'm sure you assume.
Sure.
One gentleman, Sean Jacobs, is vice president of new business and handles all things sponsorship. And surprisingly, he handles it single-handedly. I don't want to diminish anybody else on the team.
Sure.
But that's the guy. Even on setup day, he's out on the field. He's doing, which it's one thing, and Tim and I do a lot of sponsorship, sales engagement. It's just part of life when you're in the events world. But I'll tell you what a Herculean endeavor. And, kudos to Sandra Button for building and maintaining this brand. I mean, anybody that's attended the Concours in the last 10 years versus 20 or 30 years ago really can see the difference in the show itself. It used to be a lovely garden party. Tim probably told you could roll up to Pebble Beach on a Saturday, get a room that was reasonable, go to sit down and have a meal with your friends. That doesn't exist anymore because it's so active. They took this show and just took it stratospheric with the branding. So that's all on her shoulders. And Sandra originally, and she will admit this, was not a car girl.
Right.
She had interest in them, but it was not. She has been that leader that learns as she goes and allows people to be a voice in the room.
Sure.
But her secret sauce is knowing when to take the advice, which direction to go with it, and she sculpts a really great team, in my opinion. Not me, I'm a subcontractor, but she has a core team that I think are really, really good.
I bet she'd argue. I bet she'd argue with you on that and tell you that you're part of the great team.
I'm one of the new kids.
Yeah, only been there a couple of years, right?
Yeah, but to her credit too, she has and this speaks back to forums and developing that side of my world. Is with any event you're doing, whether it's this project of the forums or creating an event, you've got to learn to speak to your client in a way that they want to listen.
Sure.
So I work with Bobby Rahal on the Road Racing Drivers Club dinner in Long Beach. There's other groups, George Levy at the Motorsports Hall of Fame in Daytona. Every one of these leaders has a very specific way that they absorb and process information. What is the best method to communicate the plan to them, get approvals quickly? And so it's setting up systems that work for them. And I will tell you, it's different across the board.
Sure.
Some work really well with Google Teams, some want spreadsheets, some want bullet points, just a very simple document they can look at on their phone because they're on the go. So figuring out this process for organization and communication for the teams and who then is going to be leveraging that information, the graphic artist that puts all my collaterals together,
Sure.
the operations team that has to set the space in the room, AV company that does all the sound, lighting, video recording, all of those things. And that frees me up then once I have a good process in place that they've approved to then do the work. So in the case of the Pebble Beach forums, I'll come up with 30 or 40 forum topics and ideas.
Right.
With the help of a large community of advisors. And out of that, we maybe get 9, 10, 12 on show week because the human factor is massive. I cannot tell you how many times Jim Farley has been queued up to be on stage and had to cancel.
Right.
It was the strike last year. This year, it was just a conflict. You're dealing with handlers. I rarely deal with, I'm very blessed to realize that very early in my life. It's not knowing Jerry Seinfeld, it's knowing who his assistant is.
And being their buddy.
Yeah. It's not knowing Spike Ferristine, it's knowing how to get to Spike Ferristine,
Exactly.
And he's the guy that brings in Jerry Seinfeld.
Sure.
And it's just being realistic and humble, and it's not about me. They don't answer the call because I call. They answer the call because it's a potential opportunity for them to showcase what they want to talk about at a big event like Pebble
Sure.
Beach.
Well, arguably one of the biggest events.
Yeah, but having said that, if the topic is not universally interesting, I can't fill an audience no matter who's on stage.
Right, exactly.
Because there's so much going on that so there's all those challenges. So when people say to me, hey, why don't you do this topic? Let's talk about fabric body Bugattis. And I'm like, okay, but there's 3 people coming to Pebble Beach that really want to sit in an audience.
And they're busy,
Yeah. And so to honor the people that are dedicating their time to be on stage, taking time out, making their way to Pebble Beach, the investment of the organization, we have to be really thoughtful about this and calculating. And it's a lot. I spend a whole year. Yeah. Actually, 18 months on the shows because we start before for next year.
6 months before for next year. Well, and not only do we have to keep the younger crowd engaged in the hobby as far as just appreciating old cars, we need to keep them engaged in, who's going to be the next Sandra Button? Who's going to be the next person who takes over these events? Then you got the kids who can fix the cars. You got to have that. You got to have the whole thing. And you guys are doing some stuff in Salinas that I hear is pretty amazing.
In Salinas, California, which is
Did I say
Salad Bowl. Yeah, it's just outside of Monterey. It's the Salad Bowl of California, and where all of your lettuces and a lot of strawberries come from. There is a judge that was seeing that he was having to have a young man or woman come to his court. He'd have to put them in jail for an offense, theft, whatever, petty theft, being part of a gang. And when their time was done, they had no solution. They had no remedy to take them out of this world into a useful future. So he basically engaged in the community. They found a sort of dude ranch area that they were a working ranch, created a live-in situation there and started classes, like technical classes. Well, that was many years ago in the 70s. And now through his work and the work of all of his amazing staff, they have created a trade school on property that's completely free to these students. So Sandra and Martin Button got together with Craig and Carolyn Jackson, as well as facilitated by the great Judith Ann Rabel, who's the philanthropy queen of the Concours. My gosh, the money she helps facilitate and get into the pipeline of the charities is like nothing I've ever seen before. But they all got together and put together basically a plan to bring a restoration program to this trade school, and hoping that it will be a future model for all of these kinds of facilities that exist across the country. And it just allows these kids. So what this group allows them to do is come in and experiment with, okay, there's a building and construction trades curriculum. There's a hospitality and chef school curriculum, or cooking, culinary curriculum, right. Welding, car restoration. They've just gotten a new paint shop. It was delivered this week, I think, or a couple weeks ago. I was out there when they were talking about it. So it allows these kids to try, and they will tell you stories like, well, we have this young woman come in. She thought she wanted to go into the hospitality side or the construction side. She really figured out that she really was good at welding and loved welding. And now she's working in the welding trade.
And there's nothing wrong with those jobs. Those are great jobs.
Oh, they're great jobs. Plumbing. Oh my gosh. I just had a plumber at my house yesterday. It's good money.
Yeah.
But the point being is, how do we support this hobby? These cars are not going away. And if anybody watched the RM auction last week virtually about the Porsche collection, what's his name?
Klein.
Rudi Klein.
Rudi Klein.
All of a sudden, you go, okay, there's a lot of parts out there.
I got some stuff in my garage that may be worth some money now, I'm thinking.
Yeah. And so the point being is, okay, we've got all these assets. I've been very blessed to get to know the Levine family, who are great restorers.
Right.
And they just, Travis, their son, is the attorney businessman, has gone back in to resurrect or help the family continue. And they've actually learned to, I may be misspeaking about it, but I believe they're replicating Bakelite steering wheels.
Wow.
They're able to actually go back and make new old stock parts, if you will, or replicate them so that these restorations can be as original as humanly possible if the parts don't exist anymore.
Well, think how many restorations came from the Klein collection just this past weekend. I mean, that's going to be enough to fill every restoration shop from here to the East Coast and beyond.
Absolutely. And to me, not to get political, but I get frustrated that our candidates aren't talking about education and how our government, we as taxpayers, should be funding. I'm all about, learning about history and math and sciences. My brother's a science teacher, but I think that we have to be very real that a high percentage of our citizenship are never going to go to college, and nor should go to college. It's just not their path. But we have to create something that's affordable, or at least free for them, or maybe free for them to go in and find their joy and a life of self-support that benefits the rest of us.
Sure.
And automotive restoration is a huge one.
Absolutely.
Because it covers all it, math, science, engineering, and all of those trades with welding and electrical, and all of those disciplines are there. So yeah, of course, McPherson has done a fantastic job.
Amazing job.
But I would say to you and anybody that's a collector that doesn't know what they're going to do, don't think that you can donate your car, and that's a good thing. What you really need to do is donate your car and an endowment for these programs to exist.
Sure.
And to do very well.
Well, we should have never gotten rid of trade stuff in high schools. That should have never gone away. Yeah, tech schools should never have gone away. Listen, most of my customers are blue-collar guys who've made a business or have done well for themselves. And like you said, get your plumber bill or your HVAC bill from your guy, and you'll know that they're not doing bad. Now, granted, they've got a lot of overhead and expenses, and I'm not saying that they're all getting rich, but that's a good gig. And the guys come in here and spend $250,000 on a Camaro and don't even blink. And I go, what do you do for a living? I'm a plumber. Right. I'm a carpenter. Well, hey, Ron Pratt, who was Barrett-Jackson's biggest customer, was a framer. I mean, that's taking it a little bit a little bit more than that.
But I was with Barrett-Jackson during the days when he was building his collection, and I would remember thinking, wow, I was in the wrong business, starting out. I should have. But again, to that point, our kids went to high school in California. Tim was working for the Robb Report at that time. We were there. They went to the last high school in LA County that had an auto shop program. Wow. And it died and retired while our kids were in that high school.
Sure.
They both took it. They loved it. Our daughter can change tires, spark plugs, change her own oil. She has a vintage Bronco she's restoring. But the point being is that being a restorer of any kind of mark or label is a lifetime job.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, the people that we know that come to Pebble Beach and we see the work that they do, they're so in demand. They call the shots. They state their price.
Yeah,
and
they're backed up for years.
People pay it. People pay it. But McPherson had a great program. I don't know if it was this year. I think it was last year. I apologize. I'm not often on the show field for Pebble because I'm busy. That Sunday Concours Village is still open, so I'm change hats and help with that operation. But they, of course, from start to finish, created a car that was judged on the field, and that's what every Concours needs to open space for and support financially and helping them ship the car out, house the students while they're there at the show. Hilton Head Concours, the gentleman that runs the Motoring Film Festival, and I apologize, it slips my mind. His name is so wonderful. He is doing the film he's presenting the film for an award that was Road to Pebble Beach. That was nice. The Peterson's kids, students preparing this car. So I'm hoping to just go see the film. I'm hoping to bring the film to Pebble Beach, but
that would be ideal, and that would be a different type of forum setup, but very cool. And those forums are, people talk about, being relevant and talking about things that are interesting to people and gathering a crowd for these things. It's difficult to sit up on a stage with 8 or 10 other people and be relevant. I mean, I can do this little in my cocoon because this is my world here, and same with you doing it in your world. And it's a little different when you're sitting out there kind of cold and in the wide open to do these things. But there's so many fascinating stories. Everybody we've had on the show from Justin Bell to your husband to you to everybody, all these fascinating stories that need to be documented. And the good news is that we're documenting them here, and hopefully with the forums as well too. They'll be out there forever, right?
They are. And everybody that does this sort of content, you too, there's expense in warehousing this content, right?
Sure.
Your recordings, it's bandwidth that has to be recorded. Anything that's videotaped has to be edited. So at the forums, we don't have the budget to edit this wonderful content that we're capturing during the show. But Sandra Button believes that it needs to be archived and kept because of just, we never know when one amongst us is not going to be there anymore. And we've got that footage to live back, to go back over and in real time, we have their voice. So I'm hoping to bring to the table, I'm working on it, but it's hard, a sponsor or someone that is in the audiovisual world that believes that this content has great value. And then we'll say, listen, we'll go and curate it and then present it. You would think putting it up on a platform like YouTube, you'd get a lot of views. Apparently not.
It's tough. It's tough.
Part of it's marketing, as reaching out. How do you reach out? But when you get a group on stage, there's a real formula to that. And my husband taught me this years ago, and I learned it sometimes the hard way. You have, first of all, everybody that comes on stage, I speak to them ahead of time. Right. I want to know that they can speak well, that their voice vocal as well. How are we going to mic them? Because there's some amazing authorities and people that you want to talk to, but they get on stage and they look like this the whole time. Or they're picking their finger. And so there's a lot of curating this. And who is going to interact well with the others on stage? What is their history? There's a lot of that backstory that goes on. So when anybody comes to me on my advisory group and says, oh, why don't you do this and that? And I can't say to them, because he can't stand that guy. So I can't put them on stage together.
It's like staging a dinner party, right?
Right. Or that guy's wonderful, but he doesn't stop talking and allow the others, to contribute. So we do in a green room before a show, and I prep them all leading into that, a lot of conversations. But day of show, we remind them, this is how you hold your microphone. Remember that there are 4 or 5 of you on stage. Everyone needs their moment to speak. You all have something valuable to contribute. And I try to do it in a way that's respectful, not condescending, but just as a reminder. And I've had many of them come back and say, thanks for the reminder, because you do get it in your head that you're the only one in the room that knows anything.
Sure. Well, when you get a guy like Miles Collier, who could talk from now until the end of time about cool cars and stuff that he knows. And I mean, it's hard for a guy like that to do sound bites, It's like, there's a lot of information in there. And the more we can capture doing even, in our contribution here or wherever, more that we can capture this stuff is the more that the archives in 100 years from now, people can look back on this and say, oh, I learned something from that. Or I wanted to learn more about that.
Yeah. So in addition to restoration work and getting there is a space for young people to get involved in the production side and the archival side. Every museum is tasked with curating and taking in donations of really important. I mean, the NASCAR Hall of Fame. They get people all the time that say, "Hey, I've got this car. It was in this race. It's wonderful." Well, that's great, but how do you catalog it? Who's going to photograph it, videotape it? Where does it exist on your platform? So there's a whole business out there for young people. Just as I've kind of created, not just me, but a lot of women in my world are creating these side gigs. There's opportunity to kind of create a side gig of just being an archivist, a librarian for these small to mid-sized museums that just need the help.
Sure.
And we'll pay for it because they can get a grant or a sponsor to pay for your time to do it. So that's thinking of all these jobs that young people could plug into. Maybe you're not totally interested in cars, but you're interested in communication. You're interested in branding or trying to create a narrative storytelling in the video world. I'm sure your production people feel that way too.
Oh yeah.
Stuff we talk about, they might be sleeping, but they understand how important it is to curate the show so that it's palatable to your listeners.
I was watching I'm not going to name names of what it was, but I was watching a very well received podcast, and I noticed that when they talked about certain things, and it was on YouTube, they weren't showing graphics or videos of any of the things that they were talking about, and we were good at that. We do a lot of that, and that's thanks to my team and guys who do that. But it's important when you're talking about some kind of specialty car, and it's one of one. Well, 99.99% of the people have never seen it. So let's show a picture of it. I mean, it's funny how that you notice things as you do this more and more.
Yeah. And that's part of any show you're doing, whether it's a special event like the RRDC dinner we're doing. We've got to have production value. We've got to tell, why are you here? Why should you care about this honoree or these people? Tim is really good at doing that. Yeah. He has such passion for the individual. The work they sculpted to honor Jim Hall was amazing, then getting a great voice to narrate it, Bob Varsha or somebody to be the voiceover. So those things, and at Pebble Beach, that's my task too. So I have to kind of ease people in. I'll say to you, "Hey, would you be willing to participate and be on a stage?" And then maybe a month later, I say, "Would you be willing to curate some of the images that we would like to put on the stage?" And then suddenly we're developing this team of people that are passionate and have these resources. Part of my mission at Pebble Beach is, of course, to put on our forums that further explain or give you a chance to learn more about the special classes that are going to be on the field. Right. So every year there's a special class. Packard, 125 years of Packard was one of the celebrated marks this year. To talk about why that's important to replicate, to show, to perpetuate and tell stories. So we had all the Packard experts that Pebble Beach could throw at me. The photos were outstanding. Some of them never seen before. Wedge cars were a special class.
Oh, that was great. I love that class.
That was a blast.
Yeah.
The year before, it was 1950s American, basically aluminum body cars, one off. And in that group, oddly enough, was Bob Gurr, who anybody who loves Disney will know who Bob Gurr is. He created and designed anything on wheels at Disneyland, starting from before the park opened until modern times.
How cool is that?
He is the biggest character you'll ever meet. He's in his 90s, was the best speaker on that stage that day, and had brought in his own audience. He's got his own YouTube channel, his own podcasts, and tours the park with bespoke groups that want to learn how the monorail was built and how Autopia was designed. Oh my gosh. So you find these little gems. It's equal parts the topic, but 90% of it is the people talking.
And the personalities, if you will. Yeah.
The topic will get people to maybe think about coming. Then if it's a celebrity, we really get people coming, right? I mean, if I get a celebrity on stage, it's a sellout crowd early on. Spike Ferrestein does his Spike's Car Radio Live. Jerry Seinfeld's one of his Fab Four. He shows up or even zooms in or is part of the narrative.
You got a guaranteed crowd.
Sell out for hours. I mean, it's just shocking how quick it goes. And Pebble Beach, because our mission, again, is to educate, we don't want to limit anyone's ability to come. So the ticket price is very low. It's been dropped significantly. And the only reason we even have a ticket price is accountability, because people will reserve a ticket online months and months out. We start presenting tickets in, say, June for the August event. Try to do it earlier if we can. It'll fill up, but then we have 30 people in the room on day of show, because if it's free, there's no skin in the game.
Right.
And so then I'm at Pebble Beach. I didn't realize I could go do this. I could go do
lunch,
that. Yeah. And there's been horror stories about that.
Sure.
So we feel that we need to put a little price tag on some of them, $20 or something, again, just for accountability. It helps with some of our operating costs and charitable fundraising. Not a lot, but
it's all going to the same great cause. I mean, that's all going to great causes, and that's important. I think that people forget about the charity side of it sometimes, and it's easy to overlook it and say, well, I gave to so-and-so or whatever. But, if you've got any passion for cars and for the hobby and for all of this, then it's important to put your money where your mouth is, so to speak.
Yeah. And I am always open to your audience with any suggestions, as long as they understand that I have limitations on me.
You can't do everything, huh?
Yeah. Would I love to talk about, Formula One racing? I tried to bring in Drive to Survive, all of that. It's just, we don't pay anybody to appear.
Right.
We do not cover their costs to appear.
Right.
It is very clear. And so there's limits to that. So it has to typically be people that are already going to come.
Right. They're going to be there anyway. And got a few minutes.
Or they're passionate enough to say, I'll make my way there.
So,
for example, this year, Bobby Rahal for 25 will come. I'm hopeful that Zach Brown will join him on stage again. He did that at the I can't remember what the event was at the Corning Museum recently.
The IMRRC thing. I saw you guys there. Yeah,
talk.
That's right. He was great.
Such a great talk.
Yeah.
And I said to Bobby, will you do me a solid and come? And this year at Pebble Beach, one of the special classes is going to be vintage F1.
There you go.
So we are really looking forward to that. I'm going to go wild with that one.
So do you get up at 4 a.m. if the race is at 4 a.m.? Or I got my wife getting up. I got my wife doing that too. Yeah.
We did in the early days. I'm a real IndyCar fan.
Right.
So, and I always have been. I went to very early Long Beach Grand Prix races. So it's an honor to be a part of the Road Racing Drivers Club dinner. We are combining forces. So anybody that doesn't know, the Road Racing Drivers Club is this club that started in the 50s. A bunch of lunch bunch guys that got together, the Mario Andretti's of this world. And whenever they were at an event, they kind of get together. It grew and grew. And they then realized, when Bobby Rahal, I think Brian Redwin was the president before, and possibly that was the crossover. They realized that they need to do an event that not just club members can attend. Because who doesn't want to be in the room with all those people?
All those guys, right.
So the Thursday before the Long Beach Grand Prix, for every year, maybe 14, 15 years now, they've done a dinner. And there's usually between 200 and 400 people coming to the dinner. But you're rubbing elbows with all those individuals.
Sure.
So the real focus of this dinner is not what you're eating, not the decor, not the entertainment. It is honoring somebody in their club, in their world. So this year, it was Sir Jackie Stewart.
Right.
And we raised money for his race against dementia. And it was a huge effort, such a warm evening, lovely night. For 2024, I can safely say now, because it's not a secret, we are combining forces with the Long Beach Grand Prix, Jim McCalion's organization.
Right.
And our dinner will be to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Long Beach Grand Prix. So they're not holding their own honorary gala. We're combining forces.
That's
so it'll be
smart.
a much larger event.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that is on
fantastic.
April 10th. And we hope people will be interested in coming. And
absolutely.
Judy Stropus, your friend, is a big part of this show. And we really appreciate her.
She's amazing. There's 1 degree of separation of Judy Stropus and everybody automotive on the planet.
Everybody else in the world.
In
yeah.
the whole entire world. So I got to beg the question, my favorite question I get to ask when I do these is, now, especially because you're in Detroit, what's your daily driver?
Oh, I'm
The more mundane, the better.
Yeah, I am. I have a mom car, but I am
Nice.
adamant about maintaining my mom car. So I have a Infiniti Q. What is it? It's a QX60, but it was a media car that we drove at Pebble Beach years ago,
and liked it. And
I loved the bells and whistles. It was in the early days of all the driver assist stuff,
Right.
but not too much. So I don't like all the lane assist and all
Sure.
that. I do like cameras and because I'm old.
yeah,
you know,
backing
and
up is hard to do that.
Yeah, it's pristine. I can put snow tires on it. I can go cross country in it. It's a 2014. But we own an old Jag Van and Plow that we love, but you can't drive it in Michigan winter. But I really grew up just loving vintage. I loved really old Fords.
Sure.
I'm not a muscle car girl, but I appreciate them. I'm not a horsepower person. I love the elegance of the family stories. So any of the, like a Ford Fairlane, a wagon, or any of the big cars that families went on vacation in, I love the stories of those and the beauty of them.
Yeah, not many stories in a two-seater Ferrari to talk about when you were growing up and going to Florida, because we didn't go to Florida in a two-seater Ferrari or a Duesenberg or any of that other stuff. Anyway, what a pleasure. So great to have you on the show. We probably went over by, the guys will fix it. It'll be fine.
I'm sorry.
No, that's a good thing. You know, the fear is I'm going to get up here one of these days and go, I got nothing.
I've had that on stage. It is terrifying. Or have a moderator that doesn't control.
That's why I over prepare and under deliver. So, Cindy,
you are legendary for that. So
thank you so much for being on the show. We loved it. We'll see you, I'm sure, somewhere out in one of the show fields coming up soon.
So lovely. Thank you, Stuart, and your team. You guys are amazing. Have a happy holiday season coming up.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Buying and selling via consignment is safe, easy, and secure. We advertise, sell, and ship worldwide. And if you'd like to know all the advantages of selling your car through consignment, the information's available on our website, or you can talk to a classic car specialist who can answer all your questions. Plus, you can easily search our inventory online at classicautomall.com.
And we're back with the Classic Auto Mall show from the Classic Auto Mall studio in Morgantown, Pennsylvania. Visit us on the web, classicautomall.com. What a great guest.
Yes.
Again.
Excellent.
She's great. And I love to see the women in the hobby, especially for elegant stuff. You know, it's guys don't do as well with that kind of stuff. You know, we don't see the beauty in things like some women do or a lot of women do, and that's cool. That's what makes this hobby so great, is if you've got all these different factors in it. Because you know, there are certain things that I don't notice about a car that Kathy, my wife, will say, "Did you notice that?" And then you look at it and you go, "I never saw that." And I'm looking at the same car.
Yeah,
I'm true. Right here. You know. So where did we sell cars last week, you asked?
Where?
Oh, hi. How about Burbank, California, Tucson, Arizona, Georgetown, Texas, Pipersville, Pennsylvania, Robisonia, Pennsylvania, Newtown Square, Pennsylvania, Hadley, New York, Pipersville, Pennsylvania again, Oviedo, Florida, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania twice, Newark, Delaware, and Harrison, Ohio.
Well, and was that beautiful downtown Burbank or just Burbank?
Oh, that's funny.
That was so
I love
great.
Pipersville. I think I want to retire in Pipersville.
I've never been there.
Beautiful.
Have I? Or
part
where?
of Bucks County. Yeah,
It's in
probably.
Bucks County.
Yep.
Okay.
Right outside of New Hope, actually.
If you say so. How about some new inventory that we've got in? You know how many cars we have in inventory right now?
It's got to be.
You already looked.
No, I didn't look. 1028.
988.
How about 1046?
Wow.
Yeah, we're getting up there again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's coming.
Well, when there's 70 cars in the queue,
I thought it felt tight in here.
yeah, it's going to be tough to move around.
The studio is going to have to, work as a showroom.
You're going to have to move in the control room here.
Yeah.
Put a car in here.
We can fit a small car in.
We could fit two cars in here.
We
if
could.
We get a little Honda and a little Fiat.
Might have
or something. Yeah. So some of the new arrivals this week: the 1970 Toyota Land Cruiser, charcoal gray over light gray. It's a California truck, which is important. Why is that important, you say? Well, because they're likely not have any rust on them. Very rarely do they have salt on the roads in SoCal. And that's a good thing to know. It's got the rebuilt 3.9-liter inline six, 5-speed manual. Drivable dream, we'd like to say.
That's right.
How about the 2021 Chevrolet Corvette 3LT Coupe? Silver flare metallic over adrenaline red. Is your adrenaline red? Is that what color adrenaline is?
Red causes adrenaline.
Yeah. You see red or turn red.
Yeah.
Too much adrenaline. 21,954 actual miles. Say 2021, that's a brand new.
It's a C8. C8.
But that's 4 years ago now.
Wow.
2025.
Isn't that weird?
Out.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in the 2025 zone.
Yep.
So carbon fiber options, 495 horsepower, 6.2-liter V8.
Plenty.
Expel paint film.
What?
How cool is that?
It's got a film on it.
Film on it.
PDF.
Film at 11.
Yep.
And Savini wheels or Savini or Savana.
Don't know.
Fancy.
How about the 2007 BMW Alpina B7 sedan? This thing is so cool. Mm-hmm. It's got some miles on it, but it's priced accordingly. And it's a great driver quality car. Jet black over black, supercharged 4.4-liter V8. It is a family rocket ship.
Yeah.
This thing is so
fairly
cool.
rare, too.
Fairly rare. You don't see many of the B7 Alpinas.
Not on this side of the coast, anyway.
No, I mean, these are the big 7 Series. These are the biggest BMW that they made, and then they turned it into a hot rod.
Yep.
And 6-speed automatic, and they're hot rodded 7 Series. So other new arrival, how about the 1928 Ford Model A Roadster pickup? This may be the nicest one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This thing
got me thinking about something.
Okay.
So this is what it looked like in the showroom or the dealership back in the day. What level of care did people? How much did they care about keeping a car clean? Because
I don't think they
the roads were dirt.
Yeah, I don't think they cared at all, especially on a truck.
Exactly.
And a Roadster pickup would have been something you would have used to haul to the farmer's market to sell your cantaloupes or kumquats or
right. So all the detailing we do now on cars and stuff, it wasn't an issue.
No, nobody was like, "Did you? Should I wash it? I washed it 6 months ago. What do you expect?"
Right.
So, this thing, though, is. I mean, it didn't look like this on the showroom. I can guarantee.
That's what I mean. Better than new.
Yeah, flawless restoration. AACA Senior and Grand National first wins.
Yeah.
It's got the 201 cubic inch 4-cylinder with a 3-speed manual. And this thing is the nicest one I probably have ever seen.
And it won't last because we talked about Model A's.
Yeah.
It lasts. Weird noise coming in.
The Model A Shay we talked about.
Yeah.
Other new arrival, the 1970 Pontiac GTO hardtop, pepper green over green, 68,000 actual miles. It's got the correct 400 cubic inch V8.
Yeah.
It was in a music video, I think.
It was in a music video. Michelle Brand and Santana.
Right.
And she sat on the car, actually, in the video.
Nice. So
for what it's worth.
Yeah. 10-bolt posi axle. How about the 1987 Porsche 911 Carrera Cabriolet, Venetian blue over navy blue, long-term ownership, 77,000 actual miles. That Venetian blue is really...
It's cool, and it's got blue leather also, which I love in those cars.
And those 6-cylinder engines that are in those things are just unbelievable. So, and we got to start talking about the Philly Auto Show's coming up.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, here we are.
We're going.
I don't know if we're recording there again. Well, we could.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, we could do that again. We did it once.
Yep.
We could do it twice.
It was good.
Popping MTs.
Yep. And we'll do it live.
Might as well do it live. I don't know. It's hard on me. It's a little stressful.
Star
on the old Star when I don't have my own little comfort world here protected in my cocoon. And see, you're my buffer in case somebody comes through, wanting to shoot.
That's right. That's right. I'm here.
They'll shoot you first.
That's all right.
I don't know anybody who ad-libs better than you, so don't worry about it.
You don't have to worry about that?
No.
All right, dadgummit. Shoot. The secret is out. So we've had some great shows, and it'll be, before you know it, it's going to be next year. And it's hard to believe that we're almost November now. Today is, like I said, October the 30th that we're recording.
When is the Philly Auto Show? Is it this year?
It is
next year.
It is January the 11th through the 20th.
Oh, January.
The black tie is on the 10th.
Seems to get earlier every year. It's January.
Yeah.
Well, it used to always be January.
Okay.
And then they switched it after COVID and made it later because there were some conflicts.
I see.
Things
I see.
And so they changed that. And so it's January. But it always used to be January. And of course, we go down there for the black tie thing. So I'm hoping.
When you say we, you and Kathy.
Yeah, I didn't mean you, JR. And
I don't
Randy.
get to go anywhere. We should just pitch that we're going to follow you with a camera the whole your whole life.
Like I'm important. Yeah, I'd like to do a life movie. They do life movies. There's companies that you can hire that will just make your life into a movie.
Well, it could be a reality show. We've talked about that on Speed Network or whatever's around.
Yeah, exactly.
Follow Stuart around. A day in the life of Stuart Howden.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Classic Automall.
And
that'd be good.
I think I would say there would be too many bleeps. I'm sorry. Yeah,
like the Boyd Cottonton thing where you'd have a microphone on in the bathroom.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. When they were sneaking through the slats and the thing, and I've got this microphone on I forgot about. That's great. And Boyd Cottonton's crew is filming the whole thing.
Yeah, that happens.
Filming, and I'm like, you use that, and I will.
The camera never blinks.
And, but what you forget about is that the camera's not right in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But you still have the microphone, and they're far enough away they can still pick up the mic,
right?
And they can see you, and they can tell that you're talking, and you're talking some smack.
Yeah.
And I finally did look at him, and I said, "Look, guys, I'm going to be real serious with you here. If you air any of that, I'll hunt you down and slit your throat.
Well,
So this show will probably go live right before Election Day. So go out and vote. Be sure to go out and vote, everybody.
Oh, that's right. It will be out before
Yeah.
Election Day. And
It'll be the Monday
please do.
before.
Yeah.
Whoever, vote.
Just vote. I don't care who you vote for. Just vote.
Get out there.
And maybe the Dodgers will have won the World Series. We don't know. They
Oh,
lost
that's right.
They lost last night.
Yeah.
Got smoked. But how about that Freddie Freeman?
How about that?
amazing.
4 home runs
Incredible.
in 4 games, a grand slam walk-off home run in the game 1.
And apparently he wasn't a hitter during the season.
really.
He just
Not
stepped
really.
up. And
And they always have the stories where his son was very, very ill, and it was just all this. He took time off, and it was just amazing.
I was there in L.A. You probably were too when Kirk Gibson hit
Yeah.
that homer, and that was like chills and Vin
Crazy.
Scully and all the
I
whole
still
thing.
get chills.
Yeah,
from
totally.
talking about that.
And Scully.
Yeah.
And it was like that.
And Fernando Valenzuela,
Right,
when
right.
his
Passed
years
away.
there, he was
R.I.P.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, rest in peace for him. And Ohtani's not doing so well.
Right.
He's not,
No.
he's not, of course, he got him there. I mean, listen, if it weren't for him, they wouldn't be in the World Series. So, you can say what you will about him not doing very well right now, but I say BS because he got him there. And,
Yeah, could you imagine the Angels going?
yeah, well, they'll take him.
He's like, I got out just in time.
Just in time. Well, what's interesting is his salary. He got a $700 million contract, and his salary structure is $2 million a year for 10 years.
My goodness.
And then 10 years at $68 million.
Yeah, because he wants to build a team around him.
Yeah,
He's not
how
stupid.
smart! He can build a team, and and he still gets his money.
Yep.
And if you can't live on $2 million, well, $2 million a year ain't what it used to.
Especially in L.A.
Not.
Yeah, in L.A. I mean, it's
gone.
This studio size right here would be $2 million.
much.
And you don't have a refrigerator. I never forget the first rental house I rented when I lived in L.A. There was no refrigerator.
Oh.
I'm like, well, where's the refrigerator? Oh, you got to provide that yourself. In Tennessee, we don't have to provide refrigerator.
Our 1,400 square foot house in West Hills, California, is now valued at $950,000, and it is a box.
Literally a box.
This isn't
No crown molding.
No crown molding.
This
You're lucky to have a roof.
Tennessee, son.
Isn't that funny though? The prices of stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And cars as well too. I mean, the price of a new car nowadays. I mean, the average price is well north of $40,000 for a new car, and there's got to be. Can we not figure something else out? Can we not make cars that are a little bit more affordable so people can have reliable transportation and not be, driving a 77 Buick Delta, Oldsmobile Delta 88?
Well, let's call Malcolm Bricklin. Maybe he has a couple ideas about that.
I bet he had some ideas about that, right?
Affordable
Or the
cars.
Volkswagen Beetle, that was the...
It was.
I just saw an ad for Scout. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. Scout's back. Yeah, we can talk about that
Scout's
next
back.
week.
We'll talk about that.
I think is it electric or it's hybrid?
No, I think it's...
The trunk is open. So it's,
Oh, maybe, but and I was like, who is building Scout?
yeah.
I mean, who could
Volkswagen.
it
I think it's going to be sold at GM.
Volkswagen.
Oh, it's Volkswagen.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or Volkswagen.
Yes.
If
If you're authentic.
Volkswagen. And in King of Prussia, they took over a bank and made it a Polestar dealer.
Nice.
I saw that. So, how about this Rudi Klein collection that Cindy McGrane was talking to about the show? This barn find collection.
Yeah.
Alloy Goldwing Mercedes that arguably needs everything is $9.5 million.
Wow.
Engines that look like Kathy was like, what?
What was the wrecked car? Was it a Mura or something?
A
Sold for
Mura was like
1.4?
1.4 million. It was wrecked and
Totally wrecked.
It comes with the mouse that was eating the wires.
Rusty and all kinds.
Did they name the mouse? I wonder. Did he have a name? Was
Mickey.
it not Mickey? It was
No,
Mickey's-
that's trademark.
Trademark for life.
Yeah,
Miguel.
for Miguel. Well, I think that's all the fun we can have
That's
for
it.
one day.
Too much fun.
Nice.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time on the Classic Auto Mall Show. See you next time.
You've been listening to the Classic Auto Mall Show with your host, Stuart Howden. Executive producer, Steve Safier. Produced and engineered by yours truly, J.R. Russ. Available on ClassicAutomall.com, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Music courtesy of the Pat Travers Band. For tour dates, contact, and stuff, visit PatTravers.com. Produced by Car Smarts Media. Copyright all rights reserved.